Started then. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. My name is Aona Balashi. I'm the Executive Director with the IMA. Oh, here is just a couple more people. I am joined today by my colleagues, Laura Mills and Nancy McCarroll. Laura will be supporting as we go through some of this and help moderating the question session of our session today. And Nancy is who I usually go to when I have FTDP questions. So I'm hoping that between the three of us, we'll be able to provide you some good information and address most of your questions. If questions come up after the session, please know we are here to support you and support your learning and this journey through the FTDP program. So feel free to reach out at any time. As you may have noticed when you joined us, this session is being recorded. We will share it with some members that were unable to attend the live session, and we'll share it with everyone that is also joining us today. So with that, without further ado, I will get started. Can I leave it with you, Laura, to let people in as they're starting to come in? Okay, excellent. Yep. So let's get started. So for the session today, try to make the most of everybody's time. We're going to go through and spend 15 to 20 minutes or so going through just the FTDP program overall at the high level and touching on some of the points that we think are relevant and really some of the questions that we have been getting. We do want to leave the bulk of the session for your questions and having some conversations. At this stage, you'd have received the slides. You should have the FTDP brochure, which goes into detail in the program overall. And a few of you, from what I can see, have already started your application on ProLydian. So having had the material, I'm hoping that it's really the question period that's going to be the most valuable to you. But as I said, let us know if other things come up. Okay. Okay, so I'll leave it with you, Laura, to help navigate. There's a couple more people that are coming in. Maybe we'll just give it one more, like another 30 seconds before I dive into this. And of course, now there's no one coming in. Okay, let's dive right into it. And for anyone that has missed any of the first couple of minutes of the session, you'll all receive a recording. Okay, so in the agenda, we'll go through the program highlights. We'll talk about the entry requirements, some of the timelines involved in this iteration on FTDP. We'll go through the course exceptions, which I know is really an area of primary interest to most of you joining us today. We'll chat a bit about the exam format, the application details, and some of the key dates. And as mentioned, if I can have you save your questions for the end of the session, that would be wonderful. One more request, if possible, just because we have over 40 participants joining us today, if you could make sure that you're on mute until the question period, it will help facilitate the conversation. Okay, if I can have you move to the next slide, please. Perfect, thank you so much. So this is the second iteration of our Fast Track Designation program. But if we were to go back in history a little bit and go back to 2014, 2015, some of you that have been IMA members for a while will remember that we did offer something similar. We offer the ADP program. In the last decade, since we offered that program, we have had multiple requests. It was actually a top request from our membership to bring the program back. It was well reviewed, very, very well received. So last year, the accreditation committee, the IMA executive and our board of directors, and of course, the team in the office made some significant investments in bringing to life this recent iteration, our Fast Track Designation program. The biggest difference between the old ADP program and the Fast Track, the FTDP program, is that the FTDP program is intended to be a recurring program. The ADP program was a one-off, only offered once. We've designed this program to really try and to be responsive to demand. So as demand builds up for it, it is something that we can continue to offer. The basics of it is that this program has really been designed to recognize work experience and to recognize prior learning. So qualifying members can earn their AIMA designation or their MIMA accreditation really in as little to 7 months for AIMA or 9 months for MIMA. Now, that being said, while this is a fast program, it is by no means an easy program to get through. It is a very, very challenging program. It's quite intensive. It's quite rigorous. It is a self-study program, so your bandwidth going into it will play a big part on how successful you are. We're coming off a year where we had some great successes, a large number of members going through the program. Not everybody was able to be successful in it. So it is a program that while we've created a fair bit of an infrastructure to support your work, it is a challenging program. And I think we all need to be quite going into this process with sort of open eyes about what's required. On the recognizing experience part, it's really targeted to experienced professionals. I will go through the details of what that looks like for the experience requirement. And it is a bespoke journey. And what we mean by that is that because we recognize your prior learning, everybody's course load and final comprehensive exam will look very different. Many of you will be able to be exempt from portions of the exam based on previously completed courses. And again, we'll go into some of those details in future slides. An element that I wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of, this has been a program that the IMA has invested a fair bit in, recognizing that it is a challenging program. So candidates that will go for the program will have access to personalized dashboard, electronic course material. Each course has preparatory quizzes within it that will help support the learning. We will be rolling out throughout the spring monthly webinars to target each course offered by our course instructors as a good learning opportunity. The same webinars will be available online and recorded for anyone that's unable to attend them. There are discussion forums available in each one of the courses that can allow the creation of learning groups and study groups, which was something that many of our members this past year were able to do and found very, very helpful. And one of the most important valuable aspects, I think, is that each candidate will have direct access to the course instructor. We're very fortunate to have access to some excellent subject matter experts here at the IMA. And I encourage you, if you go through the FTDP program, to take advantage of reaching out to the course instructors with any questions ahead of the final exam. Could I have you go to the next slide, please, Laura? Excellent, thank you. So let's talk about the entry requirements and really the experience portion of it. An important point of note here is that because of CRA eligibility criteria related to non-for-profits and tax exemption statuses, the members that to qualify for this program, you do have to be a IMA member. What that means is that non-members can certainly apply. You are very welcome to apply. We would love to see you. But upon a successful application, you then automatically be enrolled as an affiliate member. And any other IMA members would need to be current members to participate in the program. So 2 separate pathways. For those members looking to get their AIMA designation through the Fast Track Designation Program, the experience required is 3 of the past 5 years of related work experience in our field and a post-secondary degree or college diploma. Now, an important note here, when we talk about 3 of the past 5 years, that time needs to be completed before your application is submitted. So we'll talk about some of the deadlines, but really the application deadline this year is March 31st. What that means is that you'd have to have the 3 years of applicable work experience out of the past 5 years completed by March 31st. Similarly, for the MIMA requirements, 2 separate paths to come in. Now, you can come in having a valid AIMA designation and at least 5 of the past 7 years related work experience. Similar timeline, that 5 years would need to have been completed by March 31st, the application deadline. Or you could come in without an AIMA designation, but with a post-secondary degree or a college diploma. and at least 7 of the last 9 years of experience in the field of real property assessment or valuation. Those would be the basic requirements to come in and submit your application. Can I have you move to the next one, please? Okay, perfect. So most of you will have seen these program timelines already, but let's go through them at a high level before we get into really what's going to be of most interest to many of you, and that's the exception part of it. We have already opened application. We have, interestingly, quite a few applications have already started and a few that are about to be complete. The application window is until March 31st, so midnight basically of March 31st. We are doing a rolling approval process this time around, differently than last year where we just had a deadline. And it's really aimed to try and provide as much flexibility and as much time as possible to our candidates. So for those members that have already applied, are going to be able to complete their application in the next few days, you can be notified of your admission status as early as March 15th. Everyone that applies, though, by March 31st will be notified of their admission status by April 30th. Between April 1st and April 30th, again, depending on how quickly you are able to complete your application and we notify you of your admission status, you will get access to all the study materials that are needed. The individual exam preparation can be as long as April 1st till September 30th or April 30th to September 30th, still a significant amount of time. Similarly, again, to last year, the composite exam can be booked. The exam is offered online or in person between the week of October 6th to 13th, so quite a fair bit of flexibility built in there. We will release the exam results no later than October 27, 2023. And at that stage, our AIMA candidates will have completed their journey. For our MIMA candidates, we have a few extra timelines. The expert valuation report will be due by January 31st, 2024. Now, you will get access to all the materials required for the expert valuation report with the rest of your study materials. So you can start on that as soon as you'd like to. The expert valuation report can be submitted to us anytime after you complete your composite exam. So you have anywhere between, October 14th to January 31st to submit the expert valuation report. And again, this is really designed to try and allow just as much flexibility as possible within your schedule as you tackle this program. We will have 2 separate options for those of you that do not need to submit their expert valuation report. We will be able to book and complete your MIMA oral interviews by November 30th. And for those of you, sorry, that should actually be November 30th, 2023. So just noting that there. And for those of you that will need to have your EVRs submitted, we will ensure that you go through your MIMA oral interviews by March 15th, 2024. For any exam rewrites, and everyone can have one exam rewrite, we'll be able to do that by February 28, 2024. So we have between October 27th, basically, until February 28th to arrange an exam rewrite for you if you need to do so. Can we move to the next one, please? Okay, so let's start talking about exemptions because this is sort of a really important topic. This program really has been designed to try and recognize your previous learning experience. We'll dive into sort of the different paths of doing that, but a couple of important points to make here. Now, I should have asked this at the beginning when everyone was joining. I would have loved to know sort of how many people really paid attention last year and were considering this program last year. And the reason why I asked that is because one change that we have made to the program this year is the minimum course requirement in the composite exam to be part of FTDP. Last year, there wasn't a minimum course requirement. We got a fair bit of feedback on it. So this year, to participate in the FTDP program, you do need to have a minimum of 3 courses in that composite exam. So it is a change. It is based on a fair bit of feedback. it does go to reflecting what the program is really intended to do, right? This is a program that is intended to certainly provide a fast track through, but also to do that while protecting the value of the regular path and while protecting the value of our designations overall. If you find that you're very close to your AIMA, you're very close to your MIMA, and you only have 2 courses to complete, it wouldn't really make sense to go through the FTDP program. You'd be able to complete those courses in just as much time, if not a shorter period of time, than going through this 1 year of the FTDP. And it's really, you would not be intended to match your experience. So that's an important factor to keep in mind. And it is a significant change from last year. That being said, most participants that went through FTDP last year did have more than 3 courses that they're taking through this program. So it will meet the needs, this program, of the majority of our candidates out there. So let's get into some of the exemptions. Really 2 paths to receive exemptions from a course. The first path is any courses that you have previously completed through the IMA. All of them valid for exemptions as long as they've completed between the year 2000 and now, which is a pretty significant amount of time. You can claim them during the application process, and we'll talk a bit more about the application in a few later slides. But it is quite straightforward. The application is very user-friendly. And as you go through the process, you'll just be able to identify which courses, which IMA courses you're claiming. The team will be able to validate them internally, and off you go. Now, if you have courses that are not IMA courses, they would fall under the previous learning assessment recognition. So again, multiple ways of going through it. In the brochure that you've received, you would have a link that links you directly to our PLAR page. But if needed, I can certainly navigate the website during the question period and show you where that is. In the website, you'll find a pretty comprehensive list of all of the courses that are recognized right now. These are external courses to the IMA that have already been recognized. So if your course is part of that list and it has already been recognized by the IMA, as long as that course has been completed within the last 10 years, as part of your application process, you can select it, you can identify it. We will check on our end, and we're off to the races. You will need to provide supporting documentation that you have completed that course, just so we can validate it on our end, but otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward process. You can also, in advance of your application, submit the specific courses through our PLAR application page so that you can get recognition of the courses that can all be on your account. You will not need to provide documentation during your application, but you would still need to claim the courses during your application. Now, it's important to note here that you may have courses that you have taken that are not already part of our PLAR recognized courses. If that is the case, if you have a few courses that you think, you know what, the IMA should really look into these, I think they'll be valid, I think they can be recognized, we can still do that, but we need to move fairly quickly. Again, recognizing the deadlines for completing the application and coming up on March 31st. If you have any courses like that, go ahead, submit them to us. Do so, please, in the next couple of days or so. All you really need usually is just a course syllabus. It is completely free to submit courses to be recognized as PLAR courses, and you'd reach out to Nancy to do that, and hopefully we can turn them around pretty quickly for you. Another note here, and a question that has come up a few times, is where do the, where do these timelines come from? The 10 years, having taken courses within the last 10 years for external courses. And really the simple answer is that, as really anyone in this call would know, the industry and the education programs have changed significantly in the last decade or so. Our accreditation committee has spent a fair bit of time in the last few years reviewing course content, materials for external courses, and under the framework of protecting the value of the IMA designations, which benefits all IMA members. They felt that anything before the timeline would not really meet today's required professional standards. And I think that's it for this slide. Can we go to the next one, please? Excellent. Okay, so let's get into our exam. So once you've gone through the process, you've gone through your application, you have submitted your previous learning recognition, we have landed on which courses you need to take. And again, it could be as little as 3 courses that you need to take for it. You will receive notice, you'll receive your invoice for the courses, and then by April 30th, the latest, you'd have received your course study materials. You'll have some time to study for your courses, leverage the available technology, hopefully leverage the instructors and their availability, hopefully attend some of the webinars that we'll hold over the spring and summer to address some of your questions around each one of those courses. We now are in October, and it's time to book your composite exam. So the dates of the exam are between October 6th to October 13th. You'll be able to book the exam anytime during that time, either through live remote proctor, which is completely available online, or we can certainly arrange for you to go to a pre-approved test center. Lots of flexibility in booking your exam. And as this is a composite exam, each course that you are writing the exam on will have 25 randomly selected multiple choice questions. So the composite exam is only multiple choice, 25 questions per course. You will get 35 minutes per course to a maximum of 4 hours. So it can, again, multiple scenarios, right? This is a bespoke journey for each of you. It could look like the 2 candidates at the bottom of the slide. So candidate A needs to do 4 courses. That means they write a 100-question composite exam, and they would have 2 hours and 20 minutes to write it. Candidate B needs to do 6 courses. They will need to write a 150-question composite exam in 3 hours and 30 minutes. Bespoke experience to you. We have found, as we have gone through this instance, that the time is more than sufficient. Most exam takers seem to be completing their exams well within the time. So the time works really well. The passing grade, and this is important to note and make sure that we can address any questions on it, needs to be 70% overall. So that means if you're writing 4 courses, 100 questions, that's 70% of that 100 questions. But you do need to have a minimum grade of 50% per course. So each one of the courses you do need to pass. If for whatever reason, you do need to write an exam rewrite, that is certainly available to you. We went through some of those timelines. Exam rewrites are available to candidates who earn a grade between 55% to 69% of that overall exam mark. Our exam is offered through Prolidian. I'm sorry, not Prolidian. Our exam is offered online through ProctorU, and I think a few of you have already seen it most likely if you've taken any of the IMA online courses so far. It is online with a live proctor, quite accessible, very easy to get access to. But again, the team and myself are available if you have any questions or have any concerns around the technology aspect of it. Can we go to the next slide, please, Laura? Okay. So let's talk about the application detail. Some of you have already started the application. That's wonderful to see. Some of you seem to be very near completing the application. For those of you that haven't had a chance to do so, you will find the application offered. Oh, I see some questions. I'll wait until the end. Our application is offered through Prolidian, which is a very trusted partner for us. The window for the application closes March 31st, as we've already talked about, right before midnight. It is pretty straightforward. It is a very user-friendly software service to use. And the application itself will differ from candidate to candidate because, again, it is foundationally a very bespoke experience that you're going through. But ultimately, the broad strokes of what you'll need are your current resume, any supporting documents confirming your previously completed courses, any transcripts or diplomas for your diplomas or the degrees that you've attained, And importantly, you'll need professional references. So as part of the application, you are asked for contact details for your current supervisor so they could certify your work experience. You may submit multiple references if required to. It's important to note that these references are then automatically notified by email via the Prolidian system, and they're asked to certify your work experience. They will have to come into the system and see sort of what you have submitted around the work experience and say yay or nay. They don't have access to any other sections of your application. Everything is very much so well protected. But it is very important that the references see the email that they're getting from Prolidian, come in and complete their section to validate your work experience. Until that happens, the applications cannot be processed. They're not considered final. So an important point to note as you're going through this application, as you're filling your details in Prolidian, it's always very helpful to just give a quick heads up to whoever you're listing as a reference, just in case, the Prolidian email maybe is going to their spam folder and they're not seeing it. There is a $250 non-refundable application fee. Now, what that means, though, is that if you are successful in your application, that $250 will be applied immediately towards the rest of your cost for going through the program. I believe that's what we had on the application. Can we move to the next slide, please? So some key program dates, and you'll have the schedule in the brochure. The schedule is also online in the FTDP page, but a few key program dates to keep in mind. March 31st is the deadline to complete the applications. You'll be notified of your application status as early as March 15th for some of you that are wrapping up your applications, but no later than April 30th. And again, depending on how quickly you're able to submit your application, you'll get access to your study materials as early as April 1st, but no later than April 30th. Now, another key date for the program that we should touch on before we go any further, and it also connects to the exemption picture a little bit, is IMA 350. So the ethical guide for the assessor course. For those of you that have already had a chance to look through the FTDP brochure, you will have noted that IMA 350 is a mandatory course for all candidates. Now, if you've already completed it previously, then you are good to go. But if you haven't completed it, both as an IMA candidate or MIMA candidate, you will need to complete it. You'll receive course materials for this course at the same time as anything else. Now, differently than the other courses, this course is not part of the composite exam. By August 31st, you will need to have completed a separate exam for it. It's a live exam, a proctored exam online. It is an open book exam, and it is short answers. And it is a sort of a different model than the rest of the exams that we're doing, because ethics is so foundational to the IMA designation, to the strategic plan that we have and the strategic vision that we have. It is a pretty straightforward course. The material will all be available to you. It's a really straightforward exam. It is an open book exam. You have 3 hours to complete it, but it does need to be completed by August 31st. And again, that detail and those timelines will have been clearly outlined in the FTDP brochure and the landing page for FTDP. And if we could go to the next slide, please. That's basically what I have on my end here on the big picture of it. I am back on screen. We'd love to open up the floor and answer any of your questions. I believe there was already a question in the chat. Would you mind reading that out, Laura?
Yeah, no problem. So James is just asking, I'm currently enrolled in the IMA course that will be completed before the program starts, but may not be marked before the application deadline passes. How do we approach that situation in the application process for exempted courses?
What an excellent question. So in the process, as you go through the application process, it is a pretty detailed application process. You will have an option there that shows whether or not you're in the process of taking a course. As long as a course is completed by August 31st, you just note it in your application, and it sounds like this one will certainly be completed, and we'll take it into consideration. Does it address your question? So it would not be reflected in your invoice that you'd receive, as long as the course has been, you passed successfully. You certainly would not need to write a composite exam for it. But having the deadline of August 31st for any courses that you're already going through in the regular path allows you some flexibility.
Yep, that's helpful. Thank you.
Wonderful. I was just going to say that please feel free to also unmute yourself and ask questions directly or comment on anything.
We have another question from Allison. So Allison's just wondering about transcripts, if they have to be sent directly from the institution to the IMA, or if we can copy and attach it to the application ourselves.
You can copy and attach it to the application yourself. In fact, I don't believe there's an option. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nancy. I don't believe there's an option for the institution to send it to us directly. I think you need to copy and attach it to the application.
Right. Yes, that's correct.
Another question in from Lindsay. If my 5 years experience is May 1st, 2023, can I apply for the MIMA fast track?
Unfortunately, the answer is no. And again, Nancy, jump in to correct me on any of this, but because this is a program that we will continue to offer, we did have to come up with a cutoff, right? Otherwise, this would not be feasible. And the cutoff to complete the experience is March 31st. The advice really for this sort of situations is to consider taking some courses through the regular path. And then as we offer the program in future instances, coming back and applying for it. It's never fun to say no, but it has to be operationalized.
No, that's great. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Are there any other questions? Again, feel free to please ask them verbally. You don't have to type anything. Can I ask a show of hands? I'm curious, how many are considering applying before the March 31st deadline? Oh, I see 5, 6, 7. Excellent. 8, 9. That's wonderful. 10. Great. That's perfect. That's wonderful. That's great to know. I'm also curious, how many of you have already started the application, the online application through Prolidian? Perfect. A few. That's excellent. That's great. That's great. So any other questions? I would like to think that I did an excellent job and there's no other questions, but I'm sure there's a few details to clarify.
So Ron was just asking if it was already highlighted, but any mention of costs for the FTDP?
Absolutely. Such an important aspect. Do you mind, Laura, if you stop sharing, I'm just going to pull up the FTDP brochure. Thank you so much. And let's use that to go through some of the costs. Okay, give me a second. So while we're talking about this, I also just wanted to quickly show you where on the website you could go in and find this information. And I promise I'll get to your question. But if you go to the IMA website, you quickly go to designation and then the fast track designation program. And I'll move us into the info brochure where a lot of detail is to be found. Now, on the cost side, a very important note here is that the cost is exactly the same as the regular path. It was something that was very important as we designed this program. So while there is a fair bit of technology involved in the back end, a fair bit of investment that has gone into it, none of that is being passed on. This is being kept at the same exact cost as a regular path. So for the cost, let me just And again, it's a bespoke experience. So overall, the cost is going to differ from candidate to candidate. But I'll just draw your attention to the program fees here. If you are not a member and you need to become an IMA member, the membership fee becomes part of the cost of this program. The majority of people, I believe, that are joining us today are members, so that would not apply to you. Depending on how many courses you do need to complete in the FTDP, and again, the minimum would be 3, you would need to pay $450 per each course. Now, part of that would be, as we talked about, access to all the course materials, the quizzes, the online learning platform, access to the instructor, included access to the webinar. So it's all part and parcel of that fee. If you are applying for PLAR courses, so external courses to the IMA, the fee for each one of those is $150. The expert valuation report is not included as part of your composite exam. That is a $400 fee. Think about it as almost a capstone program that one would do in a master program. So that is really sort of a grading fee. But as part of that, you receive, again, all the materials for it. If you'd like to, you can choose to purchase hard copies of each one of the course manuals. That's $50 per. It is certainly not needed. You'll have everything available to you online. I am a big hard copy person. I'm a bit old school. I like to have something physical that I can jot down notes on. And that $50 for the manuals that you get is a really good price. It's primarily just the cost of it. And then if you need to rewrite the exam, that's a $200 fee, but there is otherwise no other fees in it. And as we discussed, the $250 fee that you'll be paying as part of the application process, it is being moved directly into your invoice for the rest of the program. It's good to note as we're talking about the fees. So you go through the application is approved. You get access to your courses. You've at that point realized how many courses you need to take. You'll receive an invoice from us at the same time as you'll receive notice on your application. Now, you can pay those invoices anytime between March 15th to April 30th, depending on when you get it. You'll get that with the acceptance email. You can pay into installments. It's a very easy thing to do. So you could do 50% by April 30th, another 50% by August 31st. Or it can just be paid all at once by April 30th, completely up to you and trying to build some flexibility into the program. Does that address your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions? As I said at the beginning of this call, as you go through this process, as you start looking at the application, more questions may come up that are far more sort of detailed or nitty-gritty. We are very much so invested to supporting you through this process. So at any time, please reach out to myself. Nancy is the knowledge superstar. So between us, we'll figure out a way of getting you the answers that you need and helping you move ahead. But otherwise, best of luck to all of you. I hope you're all able to participate in the FTDP program and you are able to leverage the value that comes out of a speedier version of becoming designated. We will have more communications as the FTP program continues, whether it's webinars or just little reminders along the way. So if you are part of the program, you will hear a fair bit from us throughout the program. And yeah, we're here to support you. Is there anything maybe Nancy or Laura that you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it fairly well.
That's
Nothing on
great.
my end.
So we're happy to stay on. We had booked an hour for this. Oh, Allison has a question. Hi, Allison.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could go over like what the oral interview is like at the end.
What an excellent question. Okay, so obviously we cannot share too much detail on it, right? But you will receive the materials for, Nancy, this is where I would love for your specificity to come into play. The materials for the oral interview will be made available after the exam is passed. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you will
like
receive...
after the report, after the last requirement is complete, yes.
Perfect. So you'll receive materials in advance to prepare for it. The oral interview is usually set up online. It is conducted by two IMA subject matter experts. It's usually an hour or so. I'm unsure of the number of questions, so I don't want to misspeak, but it will really cover, it tries to cover sort of comprehensively the knowledge that you would have received by this stage. There's sections around the IMA, there's section around the code of ethics, there's the very applicable sections around, you know, just evaluation. Yeah, I think it's a good process. It's a very valuable process. It can be, I'm sure it can be a bit nerve-wracking, but it's a very valuable process. Our interviewers are always trying to make everybody be as comfortable as possible. And there's some excellent feedback that happens throughout the oral interview. Does it address your question a bit?
Yeah, thank you.
As I said, we're very happy to stay on. If you wanted to chat with us a little bit longer, we're very happy to stay on. But if not, I give you back 15 minutes of your life with that. I hope you're somewhere warm. I would love to know, where is everybody calling in from today? Add it in the chat. I'm in Toronto and it's a beautiful bright day. I haven't been able to be out yet. I'm hoping that it's warm enough for some of the snow to melt. Where is everybody else joining from? Kitchener, I love it. I know that there are a few members today joining us from Alberta and New Brunswick, from Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. I'm not sure if they're able to make it in the live call, but if you did, welcome. Oakville and Peterborough. Excellent. Ottawa. Oh, I love Ottawa. Okay. Oh, Brockville. Excellent. So we will stay on for another 10 minutes. If you'd like to hang on and ask questions in a smaller group, very happy to do that. But otherwise, let me thank you all for taking the time and joining us, and good luck. If you get through the FTDP program, it's a wonderful program to do. We wish you the best of luck and we're here to support you.